Hey guys, welcome to this episode of Law Firm Accelerator podcast. Today with us, we have Joseph Gates, a personal injury attorney who practices in Little Rock, Arkansas. Joseph, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for inviting me. I really do appreciate it.
I love having you here. Could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your practice?
Oh, yeah, sure. I am a lifelong Arkansan, other than the 4 years I spent at college at Louisiana Tech. But I live in Little Rock, which is the capital city. I am all things Razorbacks. I am used to dealing with disappointment and angst and being upset. But this is going to go great, and I'm looking forward to visiting with you.
I love it. You're used to. So I'm not a big sports person, but I'm guessing that's a sports reference.
Yes. Oh, yes. Inevitably, we have mastered the ability to uh, lose when we should win, but also win when we should lose. And so it's just there's no consistency, and I'm convinced that psychological trauma that I've endured for almost 20 years of being a Razorback fan.
The PTSD helps you in your practice.
Yeah, right. Right. I can.
Well, let's talk about your practice. Can you tell me a little bit? I know you're a personal injury lawyer. What do you specialize in? Who is your ideal client? That kind of thing.
Sure. I usually deal with people on their worst day. It's usually traumatic events that have happened that I try to help them navigate. It's usually complex cases. Being a solo, I usually deal with other lawyers who have messy files that they don't want to mess with. They seem to think I do a pretty good job, so they will refer messy cases to me that I try to help clean up, or just complicated, risky, financially expert-driven cases. My ideal client is probably someone who's been traumatically harmed, which is a weird thing to say because I don't want to wish this on anyone.
Mm.
But when the train wreck has already happened, I do want to be there to help rebuild the pieces.
That makes sense. So when you say messy cases, do you mean that the case itself is complicated, that it was handled poorly, or what do you mean by that?
It's more of not like in a car wreck case when you know exactly what happened. It's a clear liability thing. I have some of those, but usually people handle those kind of cases themselves. So there's usually some kind of wrinkle in there. Maybe it takes an expert trying to figure out what happened, or it could be there's a delay in treatment or something like needs a little bit more hands-on approach.
Okay. So I interview quite a few people here, and the most successful folks always talk about having a niche. It sounds like your niche is complicated cases.
Yeah. This whole niche I keep hearing of. I've narrowed the field of practicing law down to personal injury. I've enjoyed working on products liability cases. So those are those complicated cases I was talking about, maybe where somehow a consumer product had failed that caused some catastrophic injuries. But usually in those types of things, they can occur all across the country. So I usually don't have repeat type cases like that. Part of the draw for me is I'm always learning something new. I've found myself working sex abuse cases, and those are very traumatic emotionally, mentally, spiritually, but accountability is paramount. So I think those are righteous causes. So I guess my niche would probably be, I like to say, righteous causes is my niche.
I like it. So that seems very well defined for you. But since this is a podcast about marketing, I'm about to throw a hard question at you. When you go out there and you try to market, how do you explain to potential clients what your specialty is?
Sure. So I've spent many years trying to figure the answer to that. The best I've come up with today is I see it like there's the customer. The customer may be the client. The customer may be the referring lawyer. How I approach a referring lawyer is going to be different than how I market to the general public. And candidly, I don't necessarily market to the general public. My customer, if you will, is usually someone in the legal field that knows what I do, and we've developed a relationship, and I can have just one-on-one conversations about where my heart is and what I think about things. And that has led to getting business.
Got it. So you're communicating with your customer in a different way than you're communicating with your client.
Potentially. Now, sometimes they align where I've had clients refer friends. They thought I did a pretty good job. And so there's a general public aspect to that. But usually my primary customer is usually a referring lawyer.
Okay. That's an interesting distinction, and not a lot of people make that distinction. So let me take this question a bit further. How do you market to your customers and how do you market to your clients, and what's the difference?
If the referring lawyer is the customer, then I'm really involved in trial lawyer organizations, whether that's the Arkansas
Mhm.
Trial Lawyers, where I'm serving on the executive committee. It could be the AAGA, the American Association for Justice, where I serve as a board of governor and also teach at deposition colleges. It could be other national outfits that I'm a part of, and really it's just getting out in the community and visiting with people. I'm always game for talking about cases, whether it's my own or listening and workshopping someone else's. So that usually develops into a friendship, a relationship that has developed into getting cases.
Mhm. Great. One tip that might be helpful for you from one of my last podcasts, I spoke with another lawyer who is very big on getting referrals, and she told me that she does newsletters, but she doesn't do them for potential clients. She does them for referral sources, which I thought was very clever.
Yeah, so everything is AI these days, right? So I do have an email program that helps me make touches on a consistent basis to either folks who have referred me cases before or other folks I've met along the way, going to all these conventions and teaching and all these things. So yeah, I do try to be intentional on that. It doesn't always work, but I do my best.
Brilliant. Talk to me about the program because I'm sure there's a lot of folks out there who could use the help.
Yeah, the program's called Levitate, and we tried to plan out different campaigns of emails. And so some of it's very personal, like I always try to send someone a happy birthday email or text
Mm,
message. And then others is just general stuff.
great. I just looked it up. It's called levitate.ai. We will also link it in comments as well. That's awesome. I love hearing little tidbits like that. So you're marketing to your clients differently than you market to your customers, and you maintain relationships with your customers. Talk to me about how you market to your clients.
My wife does a pretty good job. She's actually working with me now, so she actually does a pretty good job of, oh, hey, you need some help. Joseph can help you. That's my best marketing tool right there.
Got it. Are you also working on search engine optimization, Google Ads, anything like that?
No, that is something that we will discuss next year, but right now, not really.
Got it. So with personal injury attorneys, you guys have a short sales cycle, right? Somebody needs a car accident lawyer, they probably need one pretty much right away.
Yes.
So the shorter your sales cycle, the less potential lead nurturing you can do, and the faster potentially you could convert somebody. And the
Right.
things that convert folks fastest are going to be ads and it's going to be SEO. Now, in the long run, SEO tends to be cheaper than ads. And I always use this analogy that SEO is like building a house and it takes investment and it takes time. And I always tell everybody, don't start SEO unless you have 6 months worth of SEO money. Ads are a little bit faster. We're talking about a couple of months, but the ad leads aren't going to be as good in general as SEO. First of all, they're more expensive. And also what I found from my personal experience is that the folks who convert with ads tend to be lower impulse control than the folks who convert with SEO.
Right. And so this is where, at least for me and my firm, it's been beneficial of I've been blessed by someone else. Usually there's usually like a one-to-one relationship, right? It's either a past client giving, hey, Joseph's great, or referring lawyer like, hey, work with this guy and it'll be okay. So yeah, it's rare for me to deal with a stranger out in public. There's usually a one-to-one relationship there.
So, of course, the very best source of clients is going to be happy former clients or professionals whom the person trusts. Certainly, that's going to be your best ROI. But eventually, those will get maxed out. The other thing I could recommend is make sure you're actually maxing them out. And the way to do that would be to make sure your website converts. So if somebody gets a referral and they get two lawyers, three lawyers, maybe even four lawyers, they will go to your website and they will check you out and they will check out the other guys. When they do that, how much your website converts makes a big difference. Do you have the right components? Do you have the right sales techniques? Do you have the right, I almost have case studies. Do you have the right case results, calls to action? So that's another way of maximizing your marketing budget. And that generally should be done together with SEO because when you design a website, you are designing a website not just for pretty and not
Mm.
just for conversions, but also for Google. So if you just design a website to be pretty, it's going to be very hard for someone like myself later to make it convert on Google. So we talked a little bit about your ideal client, and it sounds to me like you're a very empathetic person who really gets into these folks' trouble and tries to help them as much as they can. Now, I understand you have a background in psychology. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you bring that to the job?
Oh, yeah, I'm a great armchair psychologist. It
Mhm.
helps me with having that background of I'm trying to find why. Why did this action happen? Or why is my client responding like this? And so I really do take the empathetic approach of taking myself out of it and putting myself in either my client's position or even the defendant when the time comes of trying to figure out why something happened. Because I think we're hardwired that way. I think God created us to want to know why. And even though sometimes that's so elusive, and I spend a lot of time trying to figure out why.
Okay. So with your background in psychology, is there anything you do to encourage your clients?
I try to be completely candid as far as time, how long something will take, I think is the number one question that potential clients want to know. And I generally don't sugarcoat it. And I try to be upfront and honest that however long you think it's going to take, double or triple that if you want to
Mm,
really get the maximum results. And I also talk to clients about ultimately what you want. I mean, at the end of the day, the personal injury law, all I can do is money damages compensation. But
right.
I firmly believe that litigation and going through bringing cases to the public has a public safety aspect. And I would say most, if not all, of my clients have a dual approach. Like, yes, I want to be compensated for what happened to me or what happened to my family, but more importantly, I want whatever happened to me not to happen to anyone else. And the only
Mm,
way to really bring that to the forefront is transparency and sunshine. And so that's where the public litigation forum comes in.
mm. Yeah, so being true to yourself, that's something that really runs through all of my podcasts. The most successful lawyers will always talk about how best branding is just being true to who they are as a person and their values. And I'm a big believer in under promise and over deliver,
Yes. Yeah. Yes,
because
definitely.
that's how
Yeah.
you get a person to trust you and then
Yes.
recommend you other clients. So you talked a little bit about some of the most successful marketing strategies. Now I want to get into the really fun stuff. Tell me about the things that have failed for you. Because everybody's got something that they've tried, they've put money in, and it just did not work out.
Oh man. Like I said, I don't think I've done a great job of marketing to unknown people. So I think that is something that I need to take a risk on. I'm scared to do it because I don't know. It's just something about that. I hate marketing in and of itself. Like I hate Facebook because it feels braggadocious, I guess. So I don't know. And I'm sure this didn't even answer your question, but I do think I don't do a great job of telling the world what the firm can do for other people.
I just did a presentation at the New York City bar on the things you should do before you spend any money on a digital marketing agency. And while your approach sounds cautious, you probably have a really good point. You want to be very careful. I am in an industry that happens to be completely unregulated.
Yeah.
Anybody can say anything they want. It's very hard to supervise us. I'll actually, if you want to, I'll actually send you my slideshows
Please.
from the
No,
presentation and happy to discuss it with you because I put a bunch of red flags on there to look for when you're looking at an agency.
yeah, the
So
under promise, over deliver. I love that.
So some of the things that I would suggest when you are looking to hire, beware of contracts. The best people in my industry do not have contracts at all. I don't have a contract. Not to say I'm the best, but
Right.
I'm one of the best.
Well, I think that's a good point. This world is getting into the Netflix, Amazon subscription model, and I think that's wise.
Yeah, so we do ask for a subscription, but you can cancel at any time
Sure.
because I'm so confident that you will see the value and you will see how much we're doing that you will have no reason for it. But when you have a company that wants to lock you in, there's probably a reason. So that's going to be the biggest red flag.
Right. They may need the cash flow, or it really does come from Netflix versus like AT&T. We all hate AT&T and Comcast, right? They lock us in, and inevitably, once you sign the contract, you're going to be at the bottom of the list because
Yes,
you're locked in.
yes, yes.
No, that's
Other red flags to look for. You want somebody who gives you realistic expectations. If somebody's telling you you're going to start getting calls before, I usually say 3 to 6 months, beware. While things could happen, you don't want to overpromise something. So be careful with that. Ask them to show you websites of attorneys who are spending the same amount as you, not just websites of attorneys, but those who are spending the same amount, and see if you can dig up some old clients as well and talk to them and see why they're no longer clients. So there's a lot of like little red flags. I'll send you the presentation,
yeah,
but
please.
it's rare for me to come across an attorney who hasn't been burned by somebody in my industry. So this is actually one of the reasons why I started the podcast, because I really am a big believer in, what did you say, sunshine
Right.
brings the truth out, and I have nothing to hide. So I always like to discuss all of this stuff, because the better reputation of this industry, the better I'm personally going to do. So that's how I look at it.
It does feel like the Wild West though with y'all. So that's it's from my perspective.
It's so funny you said that, because that is exactly what I say. It's the wild, wild west. Everybody's armed, everybody's got a gun, and you don't know who the good or the bad guy is. So you
Yeah.
have to be careful, because you can lose a lot of money.
Mm.
The presentation that I just did at New York City Bar, I started with, I'm here to save you $1 million. And it sounds like an exaggeration, but I actually know people who've lost $1 million doing this wrong.
Man,
So yeah. Yeah.
scary.
So talk to me a little bit about these speaking engagements that you do. How do you get them? It sounds like a great way to market yourself. There's probably a lot of folks out there who may be younger lawyers, who maybe don't have the same connections as you. How do they get more speaking engagements?
So I can just speak on my journey. I started at the state, local level, started with Arkansas Trial Lawyers, did a good job of having a CLE catered to and brought on by the New Lawyers Network, so the Younger Attorney Network. So I started there, got some reps in doing that, then eventually worked my way up nationally. Part of it was being present and getting to know people who decide who gets to speak was part of it. And I'm going to tell you, like, my first 5 presentations were like game changers. I had to get over the fear of failure, and it may work, it may not, but just getting reps was very important.
So are you reaching out to these folks who are making the decisions, or are you just kind of trying to organically meet them?
Both. I feel like I've done a pretty good job if I get asked again. And so I've been blessed with being asked again at various presentations. Like I taught at a deposition college in Maryland, and I just got an email that they want to bring me back next year. To me, that's like, oh, I must have did a pretty good job if they want to bring me back. Other things is I saw a call for a national group a couple of years ago that they're looking for younger speakers, and I just threw my name in the hat and I got called up. I never even went to that organization before, but I got on stage because they were looking for younger attorneys, and I've been invited back several times after that.
That's amazing. So when you saw a call, where did you see that? What was the
On the
website?
listservs. Yeah, on the listservs. Most, if not all, of these organizations have a listserv where people post things. And for this particular story, the chair at that time just put out a list on the young lawyer section of the listserv, and I just responded to that. I had been wanting to get involved in that group anyway, so it worked out.
Got it. So folks should look for listservs for lawyers and then apply to those, and continue to apply.
I will say AAJ, American Association for Justice, is constantly looking for speakers all the time. They have so many events, and they definitely don't want to just recycle the same old people. So there's always a call. You got to submit a topic and all of that. And I'm happy to facilitate in any way.
Awesome. That's great. Well, maybe folks can send you a LinkedIn connection and take it from there. I appreciate that. Can you tell me a little bit about a common misconception that you encounter in personal injury law?
Yeah, that we're snakes in the grass. Generally, until someone goes through it and have been harmed and see the system Everyone just assumes either it's plaintiff's lawyers don't work, or it's easy, or it's a quick payday. And it's like, no, man, this is not that. It's a war. It's a battle, especially the stuff that I do. It's David versus Goliath. I'm usually dealing with multi-billion dollar companies or multi-billion dollar insurance companies, prominent institutions that have a lot of control and power. And it's really hard for someone to stand up for themselves, and they need someone to
Mm.
go alongside them to be that voice when they don't quite know how to say it, but they want to say something. And it's honorable what we do. I think that's the most common misconception, is that somehow we're less than or gross for going alongside people for standing up for themselves. And I think it's the most
Mm.
honorable thing, especially in context. I can speak on these sex abuse cases I've been working. I think it's the most honorable thing for someone to stand up against an institution that allowed them to be abused.
You're very passionate about this. The best lawyers are always really, really passionate about their causes, and the success comes with the passion. That's what I found.
Yeah, or craziness, burnout,
A
uh,
little bit of both. Why
yeah.
not both?
Right.
So it sounds like you're a very passionate person. Do you have a client story that has really stuck with you?
I had a client who was involved in a traumatic case, and I'm going to be real vague. This mama lost her child in a bad event. Come to find out that the thing that caused the bad event had happened to other people,
Mm.
and the industry knew about this problem, and the government tried to, that there was already reports to the government to ban this
Hmm.
particular product, but it didn't happen in time to save her little boy.
Mm. That's
So
terrible.
she used her story to finally get, I don't know why it took this child dying to be the thing that caused it to go over the edge. It shouldn't have taken this. There was enough there already, but be that as it may, this
Yeah.
was the final straw in this particular industry. Now it's this type of conduct is regulated out. So it took a plaintiff's lawyer, and I was just part of the team on that one. So I had a very small role, but I admire this mom and the rest of the team that have brought this forward. And now that particular thing is regulated out, and I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, that's a great story. And I do wish more businesses took responsibility for their faulty products. The best case I've ever read was Tylenol, right? In the 80s, I think they pulled a bunch of medication off the shelves because they knew that one of their products was faulty. And they got so much praise for it, and they're still doing great. It was a Johnson and Johnson, but I don't know why more companies don't do the right thing. It's
It's so profit driven. The
right.
irony is, in the long run, it's better off for them.
Yeah, Johnson and Johnson did much better by doing the right thing. You would think they would think about that, but apparently not. Let's talk about technology. You already gave our listeners a really great tip on an app to use for email reach out. Talk to me about other things. Sounds like you're pretty AI savvy. What are you using? What's working? What's not working?
I definitely use case management system. I templated a lot of my Word documents. And it's just as I have a small shop right now, and I'm trying to find competitive advantages and time
Mm.
savers. I value data, I value tracking things. My idea, if there's any piece of data that can be used more than once, then it needs to be in a housed in a database because that'll just save time. And I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I think I've been able, through my case management system, been able to not have to, hire a bunch of people to do comparable work.
Mm. Automation is huge right now. I'm working on automating a lot of things in my agency. So what's next for you? Where are you looking to grow?
I'm at that funny spot of I have too much for me, but I don't feel like I have enough for someone else. But I probably do build out staff, and whether that's attorneys or staff members, I don't know yet. That's what 2025 is for.
Got it. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Joseph. Do you have any last words of wisdom for our listeners?
If you're thinking about going out on your own, really examine your finances, make sure there's not like a bunch of debt hanging over you personally so you can take risk. And it is very freeing. It's very tough, but it's totally worth it to be out there managing your own time and your own passions.
Yeah, I love it. I love running my own business as well. Thank you so much, Joseph.
Yeah, thank you.